Product and growth teams are under pressure. Reps spend most of their time not selling. Marketers have to juggle every stage of the funnel at once. And new products are struggling to even be seen as LLMs start deciding who shows up. Nicholas Holland, SVP of Product and Head of AI at HubSpot, explains how AI-assisted teams are already changing that and what happens to teams that don't adapt.
The dream has always been, how do I do one-to-one marketing at scale? We've started to put out tools where customers can not just do tokenization in email. They can talk to the email. They can say, in this section, put the highest likely product that would want to have. And then it does that. So if it's emailing out 1,000 people, it's 1,000 different emails. So it's like one-to-one personalization with LLMs powering it.
In this episode, you'll learn how AI is cutting wasted sales time and turning those calls into structured insights. Why AI engine optimization, or AEO, matters more than SEO for visibility in an LLM-driven world. How Vibe Marketing moves from messy brainstorm to campaign, assets, and one-to-one personalization. Why every individual needs an AI assistant, and every team needs its first agent within 12 to 18 months. And the risks of treating AI as optional instead of rethinking how your team works. If you've ever wondered how marketing, sales, and product roles will actually change in the next 2 years, this conversation makes it concrete.
Make no mistake, many marketers, some salespeople, you'll start to see these people emerge as agent managers, and then you'll see other people be agent trainers. Some will be both.
This is episode 42 of the Design of AI podcast. Follow us on Substack and LinkedIn to get even more AI product strategy content. And please make sure to rate this podcast if you find it valuable. Your podcast ratings and comments are the best way to influence which topics we cover in future episodes. And remember that on September 18th, we're hosting a small format, hands-on AI product strategy workshop online. MIT recently published a study showing that 95% of AI projects are failing. Companies are spending without a strategy and building before they know what customers actually want. So join this workshop on September 18th to build out a vision, a strategy, and a plan that will succeed for your business. Register at designof.ai/workshop.
Hey, Nicholas, how did you end up leading AI at such a crazily impactful organization as HubSpot?
Been at HubSpot a little over 9 years. Originally, I was an entrepreneur. I had a marketing agency, about 45 employees. We did a lot of enterprise level websites, web applications, digital campaigns. And from there, I wanted to build a SaaS tool that let salespeople, this is like terrified every marketer, but it let salespeople build pitch pages, proposal pages, product pages that were like off the domain, but let them kind of to do that. And that's how I got on HubSpot's radar. Almost sold to HubSpot, but ended up being acquired by another company and just stayed in touch with HubSpot for a long period of time after that. They offered me a role to come start an innovation or labs division out of Dublin. And so I joined from that. HubSpot has a famous kind of DNA that if you complain about something, you get to work on it. And so I complained about our content tools, specifically how you make landing pages, our editors. And so I got to take that over. And then over time, I was like, marketing can be better. So I got a chance to take over the marketing product. And then over time, I ended up running all the marketing portfolio. If you think back 3.5 years ago, maybe it was almost 4, before ChatGPT came out, OpenAI came out, they had GPT 3.0, and it was starting to get a little bit of buzz that maybe it could actually generate some interesting content. So we started playing with it, and then ChatGPT came out, and it was, a whole different ballgame where people started getting much more tuned in. So we were already ahead of the game, starting to build on the edge of our tools, like little AI experiences. And then we were like, man, let's go hire somebody to run AI. So we got very smart people to come in and run it, but many of them were very academic, and a lot of it was like theoretical. And here we are over in my marketing portfolio. We're just out there grinding it out, building for marketers. And after a bit, we had a couple of people leave, and they said, we're really looking for someone who knows how to build AI on behalf of small and medium businesses. And it was hard to find somebody who has actually applied AI in a really effective way. So that's why I got the role. And when I did, I took over and I said, I want to be clear that I'm not an academic AI background. I'm not somebody who basically is in love with the technology. I'm in love with small and medium businesses. I'm in love with marketing, sales, and service. And I want to use this as a technology that helps our customers grow. And HubSpot was like, let's rock.
That's great. And that's the perfect story, because so many people think that AI is this academic pursuit, but it's not really. It's just a new pipe that you plug into your stack. It's just a super powerful pipe. And your story proves that if you're there working every day, grinding to make things better, you're always ahead of the game. Doesn't matter if you got the conceptual stuff down. I'm chatting all the time with small businesses, and they have no clue what's going on with this and the power and the potential of it. And it's amazing for them how they can leapfrog ahead right now. So let's talk about AI and what it's doing. So the conversation is almost always AI is changing design, it's changing development, it's changing sales. But what is it changing with sales funnel specifically? What's unrecognizable?
The sales funnel is interesting. What we're seeing is both long-term problems that have new wave solutions. So I think the first thing that's fascinating is reps spend an enormous amount of time not selling. They're like researching, they're trying to come up with the right things to say. They're often having to reacclimate back to like, when did we talk? What did we talk about? So there was an interesting fact that came out that reps are usually spending less than 30% of their time actually selling. That's a lot of wasted time. So some of the new firms that are really taking advantage of AI are finding that they're able to handle a lot more capacity. Reps are able to do a lot more when they unlock this. So the first thing I would say is like what's dying is the old school salespeople who had all these tricks up their sleeves of how to go find qualified prospects and things like that. The internet is getting more closed. That's one. You've probably seen this. Lots of sites are requiring paywalls now. You're having to go sign up and all that stuff. And then the second thing that's happening is that when you start to use AI, especially if you have access to some of these data sources, you're seeing that it can do a ton of the research. It can find a lot of the signals. Just that alone right now, we're seeing transform some sales teams. When you get into tying it to unstructured data, this is like a fancy term, but like, just keep it simple. I call you, we have a conversation. There's a lot of value there that if I extract out what are the pain points that you wanted, that's important for a bunch of reasons. And there's so many knock-on effects that no one talks about that's going to happen over the next 5 years with AI, which is one, it recorded our conversation. That's helpful already if there's turnover. Let's say that you or I leave the firm. Two, it pulls out the pain points. That's really helpful because there's lots of surround sound. Even in a small business, when I had sales teams would go look at my sales team stuff and would say like, what does this customer really care about? That's all done now in a much handier way with AI. Then you get into that, which is some reps are not very good with like the follow-up. They're not very good with the next steps. That's all starting to be handled. So you're seeing all of this connective tissue happen because of just a few fundamental things, which is like research and processing unstructured data makes that a lot better. The last part I'll say is that not all reps were created equal. You often had to have a marketer come in and would help you out. They would coach and be like, here's how you do personalization. Here's how you basically make it more authentic. We're starting to see reps now that are really benefiting by the company having a brand voice that they can now utilize. We're seeing reps do really well because now they're able to have crafted communications that come out that are much more personalized, that are relevant to the things that have happened. And so the quality of engagement is also going up. So when I think about what's dead, I still think that people, they're very annoyed by you spamming them. They're very annoyed by you effectively hammering them over and over and over again without any real value. What they do respond to is thoughtful, well-researched reach outs. What we are seeing is that that can be better than old school kind of spray and pray. And we're seeing that when reps have more time to do these, like where AI is helping them, when they have more time, a lot of the creativity of the rep actually comes out as well. If I put two firms neck and neck, one who's already optimized and one who's just doing old school, it's like night and day.
That's amazing. So what I'm hearing here is that marketing is getting better in truth, right? There's more context. It's more consistent. That's a big deal. Now, I'm wondering, what does that look like on the day-to-day? Because when I think about marketing for better or worse in a lot of tech has always been, oh, they'll go do it. They'll figure it out. They'll make it good. Are we at that point yet where the creativity is taken over by the AI? Or is it that the marketer is amplified?
It's both. Make no mistake, people should be using marketing as a thought partner. Sometimes just think about a real human thing. Like back in the day with advertising or marketing campaigns, a big part of the very first effort was getting in a room, tossing a ball back and forth, basically having people whiteboard out ideas. our brains need time to have kind of ideation, blue sky, things like that. So AI helps with that. The other part that I think is interesting is, again, we were just talking about the sales funnel. Most of the marketers that I talk to, especially at small and medium businesses, they very rarely had time to go deep on top of the funnel, middle of the funnel, and bottom of the funnel. In fact, like a lot of the marketers I talk to are pretty stressed because sales is asking me for material for this webinar that we're about to put out. I also have to do things to draw top of the funnel. And at the end of the day, we also need to finish this RFP and have a really nice quote that looks out there. So going back to your question, the creativity is something that humans have a lot of. And I still see AI fall short quite a bit in that area. Being able to unlock it with a thought partner is a very key thing that I think lots of marketers should do. But now being able to do that at speed so that you can quickly move top of the funnel, come up with a campaign, start to run stuff there, middle of the funnel, and then the bottom of the funnel. That's where I'm starting to see is that marketers are starting to be able to play across much more of the surface area. And I think that's a big change. We go back to that idea of like a super contributor. I can be good at the middle, bottom, and the top of the funnel now. I have a thought partner. And then once I have the creative there, I can actually run the work stream a lot faster. That's what we're seeing.
Okay, let's go to the big question here. 5 years ago compared to today, do marketing dollars buy you more impact now or less?
Well, it all depends on where you spend them. I'll tell you, the ads market continues to be more saturated because search isn't working as well as it used to. You've probably seen this, but at the end of the day, you've got now a lot of pressure from the LLMs, the frontier models out there where they're starting to provide answers like that kind of ask a question, get an answer type stuff. A lot of that is being handled now by the LLMs. And so in the past, you would spend some money on ads, some money on organic. What you're seeing is as there's pressure on the organic side, you're seeing the ads cost is going up. So I would say less farther there. I think on the creative side, God, much further now. You're seeing small teams. I don't know. Did you see like there's multiple commercials now out on TV where people have just done VO3, which is like Google's model. They've made that commercial. You used to have to pay a ton of money to Getty or kind of stock art places. You then would have to pay tons of money to have a professional photographer or a videographer come do stuff. Like that's all within a marketer's capabilities now. So I think it's changing. If I had to pick now, if I had the right mindset, I know the things that I know today about how to use AI, I'd probably rather play the game right now. 5 years ago, we were starting to get into the hardest point of marketing. Many marketers probably know this, is that we got to a point 5 years ago where we were starting to hit saturation on tons of channels. It was getting harder and harder to squeeze out performance. The rules have changed quite a bit. This is a fun time. If you know what you're doing, this is a fun time to be a marketer.
Now, a lot of the listeners, they're involved in go-to-market. So they have to launch things. They have to get awareness growing. What I'm wondering is, are the LLMs deciding where the demand is being generated and where it isn't? What is the LLM taking out of people's control and what is it enhancing? Because I swear every week people are coming to me asking, how can I win now that basically the LLMs are deciding who's the top dog?
Yeah, so there's a term, everybody knows SEO. What we talk about here at HubSpot is AEO. So it's like AI engine optimization. And just like Google doesn't publish their clear playbook, but you begin to infer things, we're beginning to infer things that we see like can have influence over what the LLMs do. Some of it is just modified versions of really good SEO. So an example, if many of the listeners know this, like how you create a web of content towards topics. So topic clustering and things like that, that really matters. Those things are starting to have some influence. There's like technical AEO stuff that you can do. How do you declare schemas on your website that also make it very easy for the different LLMs to do stuff? That's what we've been working at here at HubSpot is like, how do you help customers do both the technical AEO and then help them work through that? I think the thing that is really on people's minds is that we came up with a concept a long time ago called inbound, which was if you effectively put out helpful content, people would come to you. As you did that more often, they would want to build a relationship with you and then you could move on. So inbound still exists, ironically. It just has changed quite a bit. Right now, what we see is that entertainment is another area that's popping up quite a bit. So social media and things like that. When you build a really good entertaining or informative type stream there, people still want to build a relationship with you. But specifically on the LLMs, what we're seeing now is that they're starting to make real referrals to real businesses. It's early. They don't have a ad system yet. You can't buy leads directly from them, but they are doing something where you say like, hey, and everybody on the call should do this. Pick your industry. You do lawn care in Nashville. Like, hey, who are some lawn care providers in Nashville? And you will get an answer. And that is where your journey begins. You should start to see, do you show up? Do you not show up? And then that's how you start to understand, okay, wow, I'm not where the game is. And then you can start to do some of this AEO stuff. And then there are tools that you can have to help influence that. That's the game that I think people should be looking at right now. Oh, there is one more. The other question I think is really interesting is, I've asked a lot of marketers, have you just gone to your sources data in a while and just said like, am I getting any traffic from ChatGPT, Gemini, or Claude? And some of the tools that people are using don't even show that. You got to get your tools cleaned up. But then some people are like, oh my God, I am seeing some traffic there. And then I tell people, watch that traffic, because what we're starting to see is that that traffic performs very differently than organic traffic from like a search engine. It's much higher intent. We're seeing much stronger signals where they buy or make a decision. So there's a lot of fascinating things there that when an LLM does recommend you, boy, you're in the game.
I like to contextualize this stuff, which is the LLM is acting like the guy down the street who has a recommendation for everything. But if he doesn't understand your business, he's just going to be spewing nonsense. And this is why if your website is incomprehensible, you're not going to get anything useful out of this. And the LLMs will only understand as much as your website is comprehensible. And if you have customer referrals out there, and if there's clear differentiation, and this is a big issue right now. There's so many businesses, particularly small businesses, that don't understand they're not differentiated. And that differentiation is more valuable than ever.
Some of the panels that the different frontier model leaders were talking on, they dropped a kind of an interesting nugget that I'll just leave with everybody here. They said, I'm just going to put this out there, that knowledge bases are incredible. So I just put that out there because I thought that was fascinating. Knowledge base was traditionally owned by the service department. HubSpot is a customer platform. We have a marketing, sales, and service all working together. But some of the things we're seeing right now is that certain marketers are becoming pretty interested in the knowledge base right now, because what an awesome way to start feeding information, to your point, Arpit, about that. When we think about where things are going, lots of different ownership and roles are going to start shifting over the next few years.
For sure. So I'm working with a couple of universities right now on how to address this major tectonic shift. And I keep telling them, you need to have a proprietary set of first-party data that you leverage and that is more valuable than it is for your brand. It needs to change the game and how people understand universities. So go out, get 10,000 stories of your students. This is your archive. This is your LM. This is your power. And so many businesses are still stuck on the surface level stuff. And you know, that's fine and all, but if an LLM is like, oh, your banner's cool, so what? They have cool banners. How does that help you? Tell a real story, tell a meaningful thing that has legacy and heritage and proves who you are.
I'll tell you this other story. We used to do this thing where we would ask customers, hey, for the content on your website, would you like to hire a copywriter? Would you like us to do it? And they would say, no. We know how to do it. We know how to write. And then it would be very shallow, very, very non-compelling content. And I still see that with a lot of SMBs where they think that just because they can write, they've got it out there. But to your point, the depth and the quality of the website content is a huge contributor. So I agree.
If you want more AI strategy and research content, subscribe to our Substack newsletter at designofai.substack.com. This episode is brought to you by PH1 Research, a research and strategy consultancy specializing in mapping the future of your business and products. Get more info at ph1.ca.
Okay, so what would you say is the fatal mistake that small businesses are making when they're still running marketing the same way it was for the last 5-10 years?
Probably what will be a fatal mistake this next year, and it'll be somewhere over the next 12 to 18 months. So we always know marketers are stressed out. It'd be a small marketing team with more work than they can handle, but that was just the budget that they were given. Now what we see happening is that for marketers in particular, but also it's for sales and service people as well, we think that you need to start moving towards hybrid teams. I think every single marketer, sales and service person needs an AI assistant. So you can do your shadow IT and bring your Claude to work without your bosses knowing it, or your company can bless something. Like we have one that we call Breeze Assistant, and it is for marketing, sales, and service people. I think everybody needs one of those. So a fatal mistake is now going to work without that. And then number two, I will tell you, companies that don't provide that, I'm already starting to see people who will not go to work at a company that does not provide them with AI tools.
They're going to bring it either way, right?
Exactly. And so that's number two. But I think the next fatal mistake is part of a hybrid team is while each person needs their own assistant, I think teams need to start hiring their first agent this next year. And the way that'll look is we've got a couple of out of the box ones, but like an example that we're really bullish on is what we call the customer agent. Think of an agent that handles tier one interactions on your website or support things. But if you go back to like 1995, websites were just now coming out. And at the end of the day, if you saw someone with a website, that's cool, but most people didn't have it. You rock on along to like where we are now. If you met somebody with no website, you'd be like, that's strange. How are you even getting along? If I go to your website and I can't ask product questions, pricing questions, packaging questions, and then you make me click around and search for everything, I think that's going to be a growing desire from consumers. It also plays into the thing we just talked about what does it look like to talk to an LLM? So if you don't have effectively a hybrid team over the next 12 to 18 months, I think you're behind. I
haven't heard you mention vibe coding. In the design and development and creative worlds, it's all the rage, obviously. And for anyone who doesn't know, it's basically the ability to just talk through what you want. It just builds it for you. What would vibe marketing look like? And is it something you're exploring over at HubSpot?
Yeah, it is. We've got this new playbook coming out that we call Loop. Well, there's like three terms. There's like vibe coding. You just talk to it and it makes an application. And we have tools that are effectively like that, which is you talk to it and we create emails. You talk to it, we're creating landing pages or case studies. So that's already happening. There is this larger concept of what does it look like to unlock creativity? That's where this Loop marketing playbook comes in. There's 4 stages to it. And each stage you have something that you can do that's like vibe marketing. The high level is like express. And when we talk about vibe marketing, what's it like to have a thought partner where you're bouncing ideas back and forth to come up with like a campaign brief? How do you get your taste, your tone, your point of view? How do you get that all out? People don't think of it that way because they're just like, oh, I work with ChatGPT, but like that's total vibe marketing. Then you move into tailor it. How do you start to turn that into actual artifacts? How do you start to figure out who you're going to put that out to? When you start to tailor that message, part of vibe marketing for us is how do you just talk and tell it the list you're looking for? Hey, I want to talk to customers that look like this. I want to talk to users who show this behavior on our site. So again, that's kind of vibe marketing right there, where instead of being a master at filtering and segmentation, the system is already suggesting lists for you. You're able to talk and have those lists built for you. Then you get into like we call it amplify. So you've gotten some ideas now express, you're tailoring it for an audience, and now you're trying to make content. Vibe marketing is no longer clicking and moving one pixel around or typing this one thing. It's like when you take that and then it scaffolds out an entire campaign. That's vibe marketing. And so that's stuff that we've got happening. We're like the marketing studio now scaffolds that out and it begins to help you with a lot of that AEO type stuff because now it's time to amplify. And then we're trying to go down this path of how do you evolve how you engage with people? It's hard. We've seen triple digit improvements in this area, but the dream has always been, how do I do one-to-one marketing at scale? The easiest thing we're seeing is that we've started to put out tools where customers can not just do like tokenization in email. They can talk to the email is basically the way to do it. They can say in this section, put the highest likely product that, RP would want to have. And then it does that. So if it's emailing out 1,000 people, it's 1,000 different emails still guided under the controls that you gave it. So it's like one-to-one personalization with LLMs powering it. So that to me is what vibe marketing looks like, which is across all of those, you've now got the super contributor who is able to get all that work done. And they're working in a conversational way back and forth with their tools.
I'm sure there's still a lot of people today who are skeptical about vibe coding. They think it's probably childlike, poor outcomes. But the more I get into this world, the more it feels like it's not a tool. It's like interacting with a team of employees. And if you can explain it to that team of employees, you're going to get great results. If you spend no time explaining it, you're going to get no results. And we need to stop thinking of it as an interface. It's just an entire new way of working. And I find myself some days barely even touching the keyboard because there's just so many ways to interact with content and build and relay content and exports from one tool to another to another tool. And you have this network of assistants now. It's unbelievable. And I know people still doubt it, but we'll see what happens.
Can you imagine how effective you are now versus like, think back when you started. The thing I try to tell people all the time is like, you pick up a guitar, it's not the guitar's fault that you're not good at playing the guitar. You got to take time to like build those muscles, learn how to play it. It's no different with these AI tools.
A lot of the people listening don't know much about marketing. They just assume it's just a budget with a treasure chest and you just burn it. what science is now backing the decisions? What can marketers do that perhaps the really data-minded people didn't know was possible?
Oh, this is good. So the thing that I think is coming up this next year that will be key for businesses is context. That word is going to start to dominate the headlines for anybody who's doing AI stuff. When we started working on AI, you can ask the LLM something, you can ask ChatGPT something, for example, and it gives you just an okay answer. And what you have found is like a lot of marketing, sales, and service people, they start to have little PDFs that they will copy and paste in there with background. They'll give it long prompts that give it lots of context. All of that is effectively, like you said earlier, RP, you're trying to train the AI as like a team that works for you. What we've done here at HubSpot is we've learned over time that when you have an AI entity that's working for you, it needs all of that context. It needs to know your products. It needs to know your services. It needs to know really your ICP, your ideal customer profile or profiles. It needs to understand your biggest competitors, the objections, all of this stuff. This is all stuff that if I came to work for you right now, you would teach me about kind of the business, and then that would be context that I bring to every interaction I do. That's where I think the game is going to go next. And so we've spent a ton of time building out this context layer for Breeze. Breeze is like the name of all of our AI stuff. And so we have the company context, all the things I just told you about. We've started to put together user context. So I want to know just like memories about you, things that you tell me. I want to know your role at work. I want to know who you work with, like your peers and people that report to you. And I want to know your preferences. So if you like things in a certain tone or you want formats, that's all same stuff if I worked for you, you would tell me right now. And then the last part is the context of the audiences. How well do we know the audiences? We know their behaviors. How well do we know their interests? All that. So those contexts are all the things that HubSpot's been working very hard to bring so that the assistant knows how to use it. The agents know how to use it. Any of the embedded features do that. I think that's where marketers are going to spend a ton of time crafting that context, because that's like the superpower of the business. If you have all of that, all the AI elements operate a lot better.
Okay, so what's HubSpot's plan to overcome the adoption barrier? A lot of these technologies, you're attacked on a couple sides. So number one is people have doubts about the capabilities. On another side, there's so many competitors all offering similar things. And then just generally, there's your preference to not change anything. What's the plan to get your next 1 million customers?
So I think we're doing a couple of things. We include a ton of AI. That's, it may not mean much to the listeners here, but it's unique because when AI first came out, everybody was charging for every single AI thing that they could. And we made this interesting distinction that said, like with all these new AI startups, there's no version of their software that doesn't have AI. So we said, like, are we really going to be some of these bigger companies that say you can buy our dumb version or you can buy our AI version? So we started 3 years ago just baking AI deeply into the platform. So that's one. There is no version of HubSpot without AI. And we include all of that as part of your subscription. We're not charging you extra for it. The second thing I think we're doing is we have a bunch of free and starter stuff that we offer for businesses that are getting started. We have a lot of AI down there as well. Again, the concept is if you're starting a business, you buy a bunch of point solutions, and then later you decide that you want to have them all talk to each other, or you can start with something like HubSpot. And that's been compelling. We have millions of users who are on that path. I think the other part about all of this, though, is that we are right now wanting to help our customers set up their hybrid teams. So something cool that we're doing is that when you buy HubSpot, if you're pro level or higher, we're actually helping our customers set up their agents. And that's neat because we're really trying to train the next generation of agent managers and agent trainers. So that's like a profound thing when you think about it. You buy HubSpot, you're getting your onboarding, everybody does that. But now we want to teach you or somebody on your team how to actually start to set up other agents, how to manage them, and then how to train them to get better. This will be a new role. Make no mistake. Many marketers, some salespeople, you'll start to see these people emerge as agent managers, and then you'll see other people be agent trainers. Some will be both. I think that's going to be big.
So let's go into some specific examples here. A lot of our listeners are either at slow-moving tech companies where, marketing is its own division, or they're in these really nascent small startups. So our most recent guest, he started a vibe coding startup called Base 44, and within 6 months, he exited for 80 million. Crazy, right? Now,
amazing.
It seems like the era of the specialist is coming to a close, that we're all going to be expected to come out of our comfort zones and learn more things, and marketing is going to be part of it. When he was here on the show, he was saying that his biggest struggle right now is knowing how to market this tool effectively, because you have an insane amount of capabilities, but you just don't know what the right use cases are to target. And that means you're just burning dollars. So if the era of the specialist is over, what does the future marketing look like for these really ultra small teams that perhaps really don't get marketing at all? Because they might just feel like they're left on an island by themselves and buy the wrong solution for the wrong problem.
It's hard. And I had talked about this before the show started about I do think the age of the specialist will wane a bit and you'll see the super contributor or the generalist emerge. It is an interesting debate on, is it a marketing generalist? So you still have the fundamentals of marketing, but you just now have more capabilities. An example is, I don't have to go hire a photographer. I don't need a videographer. I don't need a copywriter right now. I'm able to do a lot more of that on my own. Hell, and you know this even with your vibe coding. I might not even need to go hire a front end developer right now. I might be able to get all of my ideas out. The other thing is that as the super contributor, it's like I'm a founder. So I don't even have the fundamentals of marketing. I have all this capability. And that's an issue where there's a horizon problem. You just don't know what you don't know. And I think that as people learn to use AI as a thought partner, that's an actual skill unto itself. How good are you at kind of flexing that curiosity? When you go back to, again, like the Breeze Assistant thing we built, one of the things that we started seeing is that marketers were just saying, hey, here's kind of where we are as a business. I need some ideas for this next quarter. And we could randomly give out ideas, but where it started to get interesting is where we started asking questions like, well, what are your goals? This is almost, if I was trying to train a marketer, I would say, you can do anything you want to, but let's start with your goals. Is it the base guys? Is it more attention to your software? Is it selling more stuff? Is it you want to be on the front page of Time magazine? Having a thought partner with a lot of these tools that can then teach you the basics of marketing, then you're able to run down that path. And so what I kind of go down and I think about the super contributor is, it's like I talked about with the guitar, you have to build these muscles. And my hope is that we start with marketers and we teach them to take that curiosity, salespeople, that curiosity, and ask for kind of strategic advice. There's then a collaboration mode, kind of that vibe marketing, vibe sales. And then once they know the path they want to go down, they have a lot more capability to actually execute that. So I think that's what's going to end up happening. We're just going to all have to learn how to treat AI more as like a thought partner.
So let's look at this conceptually, though. We all know we're going to be working with a lot of agents in the next couple of years. Will those agents be structured from the perspective of capabilities? This is your copywriting agent. This is your creative agent. This is your ad buying agent. Or will it be structured from the perspective of customer problems? What do you think that architecture will look like in terms of a marketing agent stack?
We're in this debate now. And the short answer is we don't fully know. Our hunch is customers like anthropomorphic, like making it feel like it's a teammate. And there are a lot of really cool UX patterns that emerge from that when you begin to make that decision. So an example is the customer agent. Our customers name it. And when they name it, they then refer to it internally when they're having discussions. We've even gone down to the point where it drops down in the same menu as other team members when you want to see its performance. So that's what I mean when I say you kind of treat it like a teammate. And so when we are the builders, we do that. We're able to give it lots and lots more capabilities. So the teammate that we're building can do more and more. That's like one path. The other path that we have found is that sometimes customers do want it to do this one job. They don't want to name it. They want it to do this one job. And so we're starting to get our head wrapped around that, like, agents is an umbrella, a term for really AI that does work on your behalf. There are different types of agents. And so we know there are agents that help your employees. We call those assistants. That's why you heard me say Breeze Assistant. That's like our featured. There are agents that help your customers. We have customer agent. That's like a concierge for that. And then you have agents that run in the background that do kind of system work. And if that's the case, then we do have, for example, we have an account handoff agent, and its literal only job is to just take all of the information that the sales rep has had over phone calls, emails, and CRM, and package that up in a very clear, easy to understand, this is what I sold and what you're supposed to do. I love that story a lot because that's such a hard problem between sales teams and service teams. It's just foregone conclusion. You're going to have that pain. But when you solve it, and literally you're a service person, and for the first time, your sales guy gave you an amazing, this was their pain points. Here's how I said we solve it. This is what I sold. This is what I promised. It's incredible. We're going to start to mature in our understanding of it. We'll get comfortable with assistants. We'll get comfortable with these teammates that we start to add. And then we'll start to see that automation, these system agents are just an extension, become more like AI automation.
And when you think about agents, are you exploring or have you already built out agents that have the ability to proactively interject themselves? Because when I think about marketing, there's very likely the customer agent has the ability to critique a website if it's insufficient at achieving a specific mandate, whereas demand generation agent should be able to do the same thing. So when I think about remembering in the context of LLMs, it's always, what is your charter? And you have a uniform mission in life to fulfill that charter. Is that how you're looking at marketing?
Yeah. So for everybody here, I think it's really cool. Agents break down into some sort of instructions, a goal, kind of like you say, their mission in life. You give it its mission in life. You then attach context to it. So, SOPs, standard operating procedures, background knowledge, all that stuff. And then you give it a series of tools that it can do. So what is it allowed to do? We then added the ability to automate those. And so there's a really cool agent that one of our customers built where they want it to go through and analyze all of the calls and deals and CRM records over the last 90 days and find out what are the main reasons that we lost. This is a pretty common thing. If I was a marketer, a product marketer, if I was a sales leader, this is a very, very human thing to want. Man, over the last 90 days, why do we lose? But that often requires somebody to go pull the logs, call up each rep. Hey, on this deal, why'd you lose? You grind out to people. You didn't fill out the CRM. You didn't put the reasons lost down. It's like all of this messy human stuff. And then you have to hire somebody and tell them to put that tickle on their calendar every 90 days. Please go do this. It's some sort of standing meeting. That's an agent that one of our customers has built, and it was an inspiration. Now we've put it inside of our Breeze marketplace, where now every 90 days, it does deal loss analysis, and it scours every deal, all the structured data. It goes through all of the calls and meetings, all the unstructured data. It knows what to look for because its system prompt, its purpose in life was given. It then has context of what are all the things that customers have said they like, the categories that we want to do. And then it gives you an actual write-up that it then emails everybody once every 90 days. That's awesome. Someone's job before. Now that person doesn't have to suffer through all that. They can actually just oversee it and then make sure it gets to the leadership team.
Now, again, imagining I'm part of a 5-person tech team. I don't want to deal with any of that. How far away are we from a point that I have an agent or a tech of some form that just analyzes what I built and builds a go-to-market for me and just does it? How far away are we from that?
And it's good. I think we're a ways away. I don't ever want to say how far because, we were just joking. There's this new technology called MCP that's opening up a lot of capabilities. We weren't even talking about MCP 6 months ago. So I don't know how far out. What I will tell you is we were hanging out with OpenAI and they were asking, how are you thinking about agents? And we talked about some of these larger anthropomorphic, like a team member agent, like a prospecting agent, customer agent. And they said, that's cool. We think customers will get that, but you need to start with the small primitives. As you start to get those down, you'll then be able to build up to more and more complex things. So to kind of answer your question, we're going to keep building out these primitives, take that little sales loss agent, take the ideation that we've talked about, all of those things. Imagine those were all a bunch of agents. I think there will be a time where an orchestrator agent now can just call those. I don't know when that's going to happen, but I think that you'll go to a system like and I mean HubSpot specifically. Of course, I work there, I'm biased, but I think you'll go to platforms where they specialize in something like marketing, sales, and service, and it'll have that context. So when you say, hey, can you put together a campaign for me? It'll have a dialogue with you. RP, what are you thinking? What's your goals? And then it'll run off and it'll do it all. And then you'll have a chance to approve it. I think that will happen. I just don't know how fast.
Okay. And what would you say is the hardest part right now for these LLMs to interpret what a piece of software is, a new capability is, and understand how to find the right audiences? Because that's the challenge that almost everyone's facing is I built a cool thing. I know it's useful, but I don't know who it's useful for, or how much they're willing to pay for it. What are the biggest, most challenging gaps in that logic?
I think that's pretty like timeless. Even back when people were just building SaaS software, even back whenever you had a service, I think it's pretty timeless. The one thing that like traditional marketers might need to do is that the speed of technology is out there because AI is allowing you to do so much more. You're starting to see a fractal of channels that are out there. So it's not like you're just on Google and email. Now there's channels everywhere. When you just said what you said, if I was going back and I built like a cool vibe coding software, like everybody knows like one of the core places you go to is like Product Hunt. You start there. That's where a lot of earlier adopters are. You go to Hacker News and things like that. That's where I think a lot of marketers are going to have to figure out how do they effectively have an idea, come up with a campaign, get the stuff out there, and then they're going to have to start going deeper into some of these channels. The thing that HubSpot's been working on for years now is like, how do you diversify into like YouTube? How do you have podcasts? How do you have the ability to go onto Reddit and TikTok and all these things. And then that's before you even get into how do you meet people where they are on email, SMS, WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger. And so I think that that's probably going to be going forward. You're still going to want to run a playbook where you show up on search. You're going to want to run a playbook where you do AEO, and you're going to want to run a playbook where you have social. Those are the three anchors that don't cost money that I think everybody will have to spend time with. And then once you get that strategy down, when you're doing a good job with those core channels, then I think you'll start to move into some of these sub channels we just talked about.
What I'm hearing is that these agents are not necessarily about doing things smarter. It's just getting everything done that you should have been doing all along, but perhaps didn't have the time to. Is that kind of where we're going?
Both. Yeah, I like that. It's both. But I'll tell you, if you want to shame a marketer, this is like funny. If you ever want to talk to them and shame them, you'll ask them, did you get to do as much creative on this as you had hoped for? The answer is almost always no. The answer is, did you take time to go run this past customers and get their feedback? The answer is almost always no. And so what I love is that what I'm starting to see is that marketers are now doing these higher order things where they are doing deeper research. They are talking to customers. They are actually able to handle more than just one part of the funnel. Of course, there will be new people who the AI stuff will be making them smarter. It'll give them new ideas, the thought partner stuff. But yeah, I really love right now that our favorite way of thinking about it is that the teams that win going forward will be the smartest hybrid teams. The smartest hybrid teams will be where the human basically has the control, the ideas, the creativity, and the AI accelerates them. That's the future that we're building.
Now, you mentioned MCP, obviously changes the game, the interoperability of all these systems and agents. Is the future of marketing AI open? Is it one where other tools can relay your information and manipulate it? Or are we looking at a closed ecosystem because of the potential security and IP and all these issues that come along with that?
It's interesting. We've made the joke before that marketers can't have nice things because they break it. I think the idea for us is that we want our systems open for marketing, sales, and service people to use with their other AI tools. So the first technology that's emerging is what you call a remote MCP server. When you're dealing with any sort of AI tool that's out there, it doesn't have to be HubSpot's. We want that if you're dealing with something that's like tied to go-to-market, tied to your customer relationship, we want it to be very easy for HubSpot to plug into that. So we have deep connectors in OpenAI. We have the ability for Claude, which is another LLM, to talk to HubSpot's MCP server. Gemini or things like that we have relationships with. That's a world where you will be able to, within, and we're still learning, but like within your permission control, within the governance that your org has set up, you will be able to go in there and work with the system, ask questions, manipulate data. With what I've seen with MCP, I don't think it's going to be a world where it's just a free-for-all security issues. It's going to be a lot of pain like that. I don't think that's going to be the problem. I think right now MCP is just complex enough that it's probably out of the reach of the normal marketing, sales, and service person. That's the real challenge. I think the technology will get mature enough faster than really the UX and the concept. What I probably think long-term is going to happen is that people will just have a phone. You'll click your Breeze assistant, your ChatGPT, whatever, and you'll say, you were saying before, hey, add a task for me to call RP tomorrow, and it's going to show up in Asana. So that went through HubSpot or Breeze and went to Asana. I think that's what's going to end up happening, and it's going to be pretty cool.
That's an interesting future. Okay, so close things out here. Which AI products are you find are really pushing the boundaries? Are there any ones you'd want to recommend?
Let's see, what's my personal experience recently? The VO3 stuff from Google is pretty awesome. My grandparents are older. My grandfather passed away. My grandmother is still alive. And so I took some of their old videos and I animated those. And I've been putting those out and sending those to the family. That's amazing for a bunch of reasons. I'm not an animator. 2, I'm not like a videographer. 3, I'm doing this on behalf of my family. Those are the things that I think are pretty profound on a personal way. At work, tools like Granola are really interesting. Of course, there's some legal questions around that. But the reality is that my data, my conversations, I get to spend time, of course, asking questions of the meeting that I had, et cetera. And then, of course, we use HubSpot's a big company. We don't always use all of our own tools, have to, but HubSpot uses Marketing Hub. HubSpot uses Sales Hub, Service Hub. And I'm pretty excited because HubSpot now is starting to use our AI tools. They're building custom assistants internally where the sales team can go ask questions about, hey, what's going on with my commission? What's going on with my territory? How do I work with partners? Like having custom assistants or internal experts to a company that you can go ask specific questions for. That's a new thing that we're not used to yet as many of our businesses. So we always have to hit up the admin, the HR person, someone like that. But over time, these new custom assistants really help out with the self-serve. So that's 3 things that I really like.
Thanks for your time, Nicholas. It's been amazing to hear. I'm really looking forward to see the future, the next iteration of HubSpot.
Awesome. Appreciate you having me. Cheers.